Wonderful. Well, welcome to the Women of the Future interview series. It's such a pleasure to have you here. This is a project aimed at showcasing and celebrating the top female change makers in Web3 and the metaverse, using emerging technologies as a force for good in the real world. I mean, who isn't excited about something like this? My name is Elizabeth Irizarry. Yeah, welcome. My name is Elizabeth Irizarry, and it's my honor to have you here today, Kelly. So I would love to introduce Kelly Vero. She is a creative badass, speaker, digital leader, NFT and metaverse rebel, fashion disruptor, future gazer, game developer. I mean, I don't think I have all the words in here correctly, but you're going to help me get this right. Welcome, Kelly. It's a pleasure to have you here, and
Thank
congratulations.
you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm sure we'll find the words. There are a lot of words there that you just spoke. So let's kind of go through that minefield of descriptions.
Yeah, I got like I said earlier to you, I had a good preview of your spread, and it made me super happy that I smiled. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Your energy, your perspective, it's just super admirable. And so I want to get to know you a little better. I read a little bit about your intro, but it's not the same, right? I want to know like what led you here to this journey, kind of some background, whatever you want to share with us.
I am a bad girl. So I've always been in trouble because I see the state of the status quo and I just think this could be done better or we're doing this wrong. Why don't we try it this way? And honestly, throughout life, no one ever listens to anything I've got to say until it goes wrong. And then they say, we should have listened to you. So I spent 30 years working in game development where those types of conversations were happening on a daily basis. And I really wanted to kind of push the envelope a little bit, maybe the agenda, towards the opportunities that are available for women in tech. You know, if we're talking about digital transformation in the fashion industry, for example, we want to be talking about it from the perspective of people who wear those clothes, whether it's digitally or physically. And that's not pale male and stale dudes. That's
Mhm.
mostly women that buy high fashion and no one's getting a say. And I thought that was a bit wrong. So I effectively went into various boardrooms and called people out on their BS quite a lot. Got myself into a lot of trouble, had those sort of emails or messages from people that say, never invite her to this again because she's just got too much of an opinion. And, here we are today. And I think opinion comes from a good place mostly. It comes from a place of experience for a lot of people. They have an opinion because they have experience or have a lived knowledge of how something works or how something is. So I guess if I was to describe myself in like one sentence, it would be failed engineer because, I was never clever enough to be an engineer. So I've had to apply the things that really excite me about fixing machines and being engineering minded. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of women in the future 100 that are amazing cyber scientists, security analysts, engineers. And here's me kind of down here doing game development.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's
So,
down here, but I love some of the things that you mentioned about like being that disruptor in a conference room. And like I myself am the person that like speaks up too much. Like that too much is a thing I'm removing from my vocabulary, but was always very outspoken in a room full of white men, and just reality was usually the case. And I'm like
right.
small, like I'm a 5 foot tall Latina, and so it was always a challenge to like get them to listen, and that I always had something to say. I didn't keep quiet. So I relate to that, and I love it because I think that's how we solve problems. If everyone was quiet and they conformed to daily life, then we wouldn't be in the metaverse to begin with. So
Absolutely. I think problems have to be solved. And I think the more that we kind of feel that we don't have a voice, the less opportunity we have to be able to solve that problem. So I just provided a voice.
So you said that you're not like your typical engineer, but I feel like you have all the qualities. I read that you were the first woman to create a trading standard for NFTs. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. During the kind of peak of NFT season last year, and so there have been two generations of NFTs. The first generation was the CryptoKitties and all of those like Bitcoin attached tokens. And the second
Hmm.
generation is something more of art related, luxury developed, these types of digital objects which become effectively digital assets. There was a lot of it flying around. I saw a lot of people getting ripped off because they were just buying a JPEG. Gosh, how annoying to spend all of your hard earned cash on something that is effectively a once only experience. And so I decided that it would be a good idea to standardize objects the way that we do in the games industry. So when we have an object in the games industry, we want to be able to use that across a variety of platforms. And the way to be able to do that is ensure that the export information is in place or that the DNA of that particular object is standardized or set in a particular standard that people can read, people can use, and people can place in an environment. So I set about doing the same. I applied game technology protocols, if you like, to digital objects. And then what came out at the end of that was a standard. It has four very distinct areas, and that is understanding and setting the dimension of the object, setting the export format of the object. So where is it going to? Is it going to be a snap filter? Is it going to be my Zoom background? Is it going to be used in a game, etc.? And then the DRM, the digital rights management, who owns that piece of digital asset? Is it you? You bought it, but you don't necessarily own it. It might be a Louis Vuitton bag. In my case, it is. So it belongs to Louis Vuitton. And then finally, I wrote an algorithm to protect what the value of that object would be, not tomorrow if you want to resell it and make the market super liquid, but what it might be worth 10 years from now. And I thought that that would be really helpful for people who are looking at NFTs from the perspective of a long term portfolio management or a collection. So people who inspire me are folks like Whale Shark because they create portfolios of their collections, and that in itself becomes an investment portfolio. And I wanted the kind of guy on the street, the girl on the street, people like me who have never been able to invest in really big, huge things because we don't have the money to be able to do that, to build up a nice collection that will have some worth down the line.
And I think this is incredible because a lot of the people entering this space don't know what they're doing, right? And they're learning and figuring it out as they go. And the way that they're learning sometimes is by actually getting scammed, right? They have to get scammed to learn not to make that mistake again, so which is sad. But it's like we're in this stage of like everyone trying to figure it out at once. And so having some sort of guideline is extremely helpful. It's helpful, especially for women who traditionally invest differently. They just are less, or they're not as risk adverse. And so for them to have some sort of like, we analyze things more. So to have something that you can analyze, understand as a rule book, getting into this space, it sets you up to have more success in life. And I think we need more women pioneers and more women in the space that are willing to support and provide this information and this knowledge in a condensed way that we can grasp and understand.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to go into Jimmy Choo and buy a pair of Jimmy Choos, then, as you say quite rightly, this is something that we buy not from a risk aversion perspective. We buy it because we like it. And so we shouldn't have to feel like we have buyer's remorse afterwards if we buy an NFT because we can't do anything with it. So if I want to buy a Chanel jacket, I should be able to wear it in wherever I am. If it's a digital Chanel jacket, I should be able to wear that in Avakin Life. I should be able to wear that in Decentraland. I should be able to wear it in the sandbox. These things should be interoperable. And that's what I wanted to be able to create with that. And it really took off. And the interoperability and the utility conversations that came out of that have been just so amazing because I kind of feel a little bit like, well, for me, it was common sense, but for everybody else, it was like they were today years old because they thought, wow, we didn't think about putting all of that information into a smart contract before. So I just hope that I've been able to help people along the way. I'm pretty sure it'll get picked up and used by a variety of different people. That's cool. But knowing that, a woman saw that kind of problem and the problematic elements of the NFT as it was as a protocol and standard and changed that just feels kind of good.
It feels great. I bet this is exciting. And it's said like we know that we've heard now this metaverse creates like these limitless possibilities, right? There's all these different opportunities that within the metaverse that are still being defined. Like, what are some kind of opportunities that you see in Web3 and in the metaverse space that maybe aren't already defined or that you're exploring?
Oh gosh, there are loads of things actually, because I work across loads of verticals. So femtech is a big one. I've been talking for
Mm.
the past couple of days about the power of femtech and the power of health tech. We're at a really big crossroads in our lives as women right now, with some of the decisions that are being made for us by people who have no connection to our bodies or don't know anything about us. The metaverse, in that respect, I think will set a lot of people free. It will allow us to really identify, develop, and understand who we are as people. And I am like 100 million% behind a great deal of femtech startups that are run by women and have products that are created for women, because I think that this is a great opportunity for women to be able to grasp the nettle of things like telehealth, for example, or fertility or menstrual tracking. Remember that the metaverse is completely mobile as well. So the more opportunity we have to hold a world inside our hands. I did make a kind of suggestion once upon a time. It's a bit like Orion's belt in
Mm.
Men in Black, remember where the universe was inside this little globe? That's the metaverse. We can put it in our hands and we should be able to access every part of our body through that. I can access a lot of my body through a Fitbit. And I consider the Fitbit to be part of the metaverse as well. If we can apply some of the methodologies of how data is tracked privately about us, and we can see that visualized inside a metaverse, then that is a really big tick for a lot of women.
And I love that. I think that today, like this week, I was on my driving somewhere and I was using maps on my phone, and now I saw trees that like it was more 3D than it usually is. And so I could see like the landscapes and the trees and then the dimensions, like you could actually see the depth in the bridges. And it caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, I feel like I'm in the metaverse. It was interesting, like looking ahead and seeing the little trees in there. And I was like, I'm so glad it's not just this flat like road. They're showing you the trees in the space. And it made me think about all the things that are already so metaverse in my environment that I may not like acknowledge. And so that stood out to me when I was reading some of your things in this spread. I got very excited to hear your perspective on kind of the metaverses, like you said, the Fitbit, it's everything around us. So I admire that. But of course, with all these amazing opportunities, we have challenges. So what are some challenges, concerns, and maybe some problems that you've already seen, and how are you addressing them?
Privacy, data, and security are the big ones. I think if we're talking about NFTs, especially, one of the problems that I'm trying to solve at the moment is privacy, data, and security. And because I'm creating a wallet for women, made by women for women, so it's an enabler for us to be able to buy more digital objects and get into this space a little bit more easily. If we have to remember 36 string passcodes, that's going to be really difficult for a lot of people. We're not all crypto security experts, we're just regular people. So, how do things pass the mum test in the metaverse? Well, for the most part, they don't. So, a lot of the problems that I'm trying to fix are mum test related. Opportunities really for businesses, developers, designers to be able to create things that are simple, because design should be simple. We should be able to overcome obstacles, but not by having to go to Wikipedia and find out what the definitions of things are before we get to that place. I want people to be able to access things natively. I don't want people to have to go to university to be able to access simple information. So I find that there are a lot of opportunities at the moment in the metaverse to be able to develop much more simplistic and much less overthought opportunities or designs or experiences for people.
Yeah, it's difficult to make something mass adopted without taking care of the security aspect of it all. Because then you have, someone like maybe your own parents or someone that's maybe less tech savvy that, like you said, don't even have the experience of that some of the younger generation does of looking out for certain things. And so they may not recognize it and they see innocence and all, and then maybe they get, caught, someone gets caught like getting scammed or phishing, and all those things happen. And I think often it happens because they just don't have the awareness or the understanding of what they need to look out for. So putting systems in place that can support people at a simple level to be able to have security, not having the expectation that everyone can understand, like you said, these long strings of a key. Like we could barely remember our simple passwords to go into our social medias or anything else, our bank accounts. How are we going to remember long strings? So I love that you're working
Seriously,
on this.
I can't remember what I did yesterday. I can't remember what I did about 5 minutes ago. So I'm not going to be able to remember this stuff moving forwards. Yeah, I want to be part of this world. I want to be part of this space. And the more that it's made difficult for me, the more that I want to make it easier for everybody else.
Yeah, we have just like this overwhelming amount of information coming at us from different angles. And so making it easier, like you said, makes us more present in our lives. So when people talk about the metaverse, they think that it disconnects them from reality, that technology can disconnect you from reality. If anything, it can give you back more time to spend in nature, to spend in your reality. Um, I love this conversation. I wanted to ask you a few more things on, is there a particular memory that stands out for you since you started working at Web3 or in the metaverse that you can say that you would like to share with the readers or someone that's kind of looking up to you in this moment?
Well, I've got a couple. Here's a fun story. Probably once a week, I get mansplained to about what Web3 and the metaverse is. That's the first thing. It's ridiculous. But I guess some of the things that are really memorable for me are it is kind of the new networks that I've made and the new friends that I've made in this space. Everybody is really friendly and embraces everybody. In the games industry, for a long time, we were pretty similar. But I think the kind of walled garden or controlling nature of maybe game publishers or big tech companies have really made us kind of be at war with one another in terms of game development. It really is about survival of the fittest, survival of the strongest. It's all about DAOs and numbers. But if you talk to people that are in Web3 and in the metaverse, they're very, very open to what it is you've got to say. They really want to take an interest in who you are as an individual, and they really want to open doors for you. I've never had or experienced so much kind of love from people. And I've never seen so many interested women all in one place. Gosh, I spent my entire career in the games industry getting women to come and join the industry. I didn't even have to try in Web3 and the metaverse because you were already here. You were waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really happy to just kind of come across. It's so wonderful to make such great friends. In fact, some of the best friends that I've made in recent times have been folks that I've met through the metaverse or through Web3, blockchain, NFT, etc.
I had the same experience actually. I created new friendships that I wasn't expecting, like that new friendship surfaced from this Web3, like just kind of branching off and going into the wormhole of what is this, community of Web3. I think I discovered true community. I came from a different industry, and so I think everyone comes from different industries. So all these different people coming from different industries, some not all technical, which was interesting. And then some people getting into the space and learning, there was this sense of like shared understanding of wanting to learn about something new that made it like where I want to support you and you can support me. And it didn't feel, at least for me, competitive. And I loved that sense of culture and community and gathering and belonging. And I found that's the true opportunity of Web3, was that it could bring us together regardless of your background, regardless of your experience in the past. And it lets you be a little creative. It lets you be a little bit technical. It lets you be maybe more understanding your finances and having some more responsibility behind your choices and what you buy. And so it was really interesting to get an exposure to a community like that. And then it made me think, well, I don't want to be in this industry that I'm a part of anymore, because this is where I belong. And so it's really exciting that we have people out there that build community and support community and bring more women together. And I also found there was so many women wanting to be a part of it, searching for a place where they were accepted, where maybe traditionally in tech it's been difficult, even in gaming and many industries, right? Like there's been more restrictions, and you feel like you can't come in because you're not that bro culture and you're not understood. So having women like you in this space that open the doors and feel welcoming and support and are providing tools, that's encouraging. And I think that that allows more women to enter this space. And that's something I also would like to ask you, like, are there any like lasting words, like you have a woman that opens this book when it's published, and they see your spread, and they're seeing 100 women in this space. I mean, what a I just, there's no project out there like this right now, truly acknowledging women of the future. And it's this book of 100 women that for someone like me, it's like, oh my God, I could be one of these women. And so are there any words that you would leave them with, like, some sort of inspiration to get them, to move forward? Maybe they're kind of resisting because they may not feel welcome.
I think kind of if you go back in time, like I didn't really have any role models that I could look up to. So I had to look up to myself to be the role model that I wanted to be. The only role model that we had prior to that was Ada Lovelace. And now we've got 100 Ada Lovelaces. It's mind blowing. There's like so many, wizardesses of numbers, cybersecurity, game development, anything you can think of in that book. It's so powerful. But I think one of the things that I would say to people reading that book for the first time is, identify yourself first. Think about, what is it that you're really interested in? Then find those people, those clusters, those networks of people that you want to be. I think I said in the book, find your tribe. And I always feel like that because when I came over to Web3 and the metaverse, blockchain and NFTs in the first kind of generation of NFTs, it was hard to find a tribe, but eventually I found it. And I'm never letting those women go. I mean, they are literally friends for life. And people will find solace in those pages of that book because you are in there. You will be able to look at that book in the pages as though it's a mirror. You'll find yourself.
And you said something that I read in the book about not giving, let's just say, a damn, and focusing on yourself and doing what you believe in. I think that is an important message. I wanted to highlight this because often we kind of care too much about making something accessible to everyone or that everyone can understand, and we lose ourselves along the way trying to make something like mass adopted. I think it's important to have identity, and I think that I believe that the women reading this page on this thread on the book will realize that you have an identity. You have created your own identity. You are yourself, and that's an important message. So I wanted to thank
Yeah,
you and congratulate you
thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you, but I'm the opposite of you. So you're 5'1", walking into a conference room. I'm 6 feet tall, walking into a conference room. I tell you that being a woman in this industry is easy now. Being a woman in
Mm.
any other industry that we were in before makes so many preconceptions of who we are that I don't really have to identify with being this kick ass, badass, don't give a damn sort of person. I can really just finally be myself. It's making changes and wanting change to happen that really kind of makes that imprint in your identity because you want to see change happen and you can't see yourself in that change. So until you can, you have to fight, kick ass, not give a damn. And then when you find those people that you're always supposed to be connected with, that's when you can take that deep breath and say, hey, I don't have to prove myself around these women, around these people. They get it. They know what industry we're in. They know what it is that we want to do, what our dreams are, what our goals are. Now we can go together rather than having this kind of leadership halo over your head saying, I'm the next this, I'm the next that, I've got to be this kind of person. No, you don't have to fight so hard. This is a beautiful opportunity for everybody to be able to realize the dream together.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kelly. Wow, amazing. This has been a really exciting interview. I'm thinking about one last thing for you. So where we would love to know, like, where would you like to see this book, this project go? Like, what would you like to see coming out of this, Women of the Future project?
I would love to see every school, every college, every university having this book on their shelves. I would like to see teachers identifying people in this book and holding them as an example of what young women of tomorrow can be, and allowing them to be able to find their own journey, their own way, to kick as many asses, to give as many less of a damns as they want, but to be able to create a conversation and allow people to be able to be part of that conversation. Whether you're in Rio de Janeiro, in a favela, or whether you are in London or Oslo, you should feel the same as everybody else. You should feel wanted. You should feel like you can achieve, and you should just go for it. But if you don't have those role models around you, how in the hell are people going to be able to identify their futures?
Incredible. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to stay connected with you and see all of the amazing things you are continuing to do. And I would love for everyone to know where they can find you. I know that we have your LinkedIn, everything is connected on our page, but is there any way that people can find you if they want to connect with you and ask you questions?
So I think I'm probably going to be the first person to ever say this in this conversation, but I actually have an office in @𝗵𝗺 and Decentraland. So you can find me if you search for me and go to my Metaverse office. I man that office every single day, whether I'm in Decentraland or @𝗵𝗺, and you can have some face-to-face with me if you've got any questions or there's anything you want to know. And then, of course, I'm only on one Web2, and that is Twitter. I don't do any of the other Web2 profiles. So I'm completely in the future already. I'm just waiting for you guys to come along.
Oh, you're just waiting for us to get there. We got to hurry up so that we can spend more time with you in there. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to connecting with you again. Have a good one.
I loved it so much. Thank you, Elizabeth.